What's up guys, today I'm counting down the top 5 martial arts styles in Kengan, Ashura and Kengan Omega. I was gonna do a top 10 but felt it was too hard and the video would end up being too long. Also, many of the fighting styles throughout Kengan don't get explored that much and many don't really have a whole range of techniques to talk about. I'll have one honorable mention, which is the Hatsumi style Aikido. At number 5, I decided to go for the Koei style, a long-lasting martial art that was actually revived by a boy Genzan, who was able to pass it on to Kiryu Setuna before, as we know, Kiryu Setuna killed Genzan. It's described as a style that's branched off from classical jiu-jitsu, with a lot of the elements and techniques of the style being forgotten due to the large amount of practitioners of this style dying in war and pretty much the style just being forgotten. But at some point, Genzan, who was a descendant of the branch of the Koei style, started to reconstruct and recreate the Koei style with whatever information he could find, and with this he was able to recreate two techniques of the original Koei style, which is Blink and Rakashasha's Palm, which I'll talk about now. So we saw Kiryu Setuna use Blink throughout the Annihilation tournament. It involves moving at the exact point when your opponent blinks, in turn making it seem you are moving much quicker and getting into the blind spot of your opponent in that quick instant. He's able to, actually catch Kuroki Gensai off guard by distracting him with a little bit of like dust or throwing something at him and then using the blink, which no other character was actually able to do that well throughout the Annihilation tournament. That this shows how strong this blink actually is. And then in the first fight against Nikado Ren, Blink was absolutely dominating Nikado Ren. And when someone has perfected this technique like Kiryu Setuna did, it gives the illusion that you have vanished while using it, which is pretty overpowered in my opinion. Another technique is the Rakashasha's Palm. In my opinion, one of the strongest techniques we actually have in the series. It involves a palm strike with a twisting impact that can actually destroy bones, dismember limbs, and actually destroy people with relative ease, especially at the end when we saw Kiryu use it on the freaking prison wall, absolutely just blow it out, and with a weaker version being able to two-shot Nikado Ren with this technique. It's also stated that Genzan was only able to twist his wrists with this technique a total of 180 degrees, while Kiryu Setuna was able to reach 360 degrees, making the attack in his version double the power and double the rotation. So Kiryu pretty much perfected this technique much more than his master Genzan did. The biggest weakness of this technique is how close you actually need to be to your opponent to actually land a full power Rakashasha Palm on them. This is where the blink comes in combination with the Rakashasha Palm to become very powerful. Also take note that Kiryu Setuna created two more variations of the Rakashasha Palm during the Annihilation tournament. The first one was Rakashasha's Soul, where Kiryu was able to use the same motion and same concept with his feet to have a pretty much feet version of the Rakashasha Palm, which is pretty impressive. And he also created the true Rakashasha Palm, which is pretty much the same variation but this upped in power and strength and everything else regarding that, with the focus being on the user's fingertips rather than the actual wrist turning itself. But the biggest weakness in my opinion of the Koei style is how only two techniques were discovered. Maybe Kiryu Setuna has disappeared from Kengan Ashura, Kengan Omega to actually learn more about the Koei style, and maybe when he returns he'll have more techniques of the Koei style to use in combination with the Niko style, which will make him very overpowered. But as a whole, a top tier martial arts style in the Kengan and absolute greatness. My goal for 2020 was to reach 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube, so be a mad lad and subscribe alongside these other cool things. Now, enjoy the video. At number 4, I decided to go for the Gayo style. Its two users are Gayo Mukaku and Gayo Roiki. So far in the story, we haven't seen anyone else use the Gayo style. It's an older form of classical jiu-jitsu, so it's not based off it, it's just an older form of it, which is pretty interesting. As you know, it was the style before the Niko style came to be, and it set up the foundations for the Niko style as Gayo Mukaku created the Niko style. So many of the techniques are very similar, but the big difference with the Gayo style is that its focus is on surprise attacks and actually killing your opponent rather than fighting in one-on-one tournaments like the Kengan Annihilation tournament or the Purgatory tournament. It's mainly focused on, street fighting, killing your opponent quickly and surviving like Gayo Mukaku did for over 30 years in the inside using this style, which is absolutely insane. And then with Gaoh using this style in the Purgatory tournament against Naden, and again earlier against Justice Boy. It has a large amount of techniques, so I won't go into too much detail like the Koei style. I'll just talk about each one of them for a little bit. So we have the Air Rending, Armor Clad, Earth Crouching Dragon, which is Gaoh's pretty much favorite technique that he always seems to use. Soft Strike, which was used against Naden in the tournament. Twin Dragon Charge, Uncoiling Serpent Fist, which was also used against Naden, and Weeping Willow, which is the exact same version that the Niko style has. In summary, the Gayo style is just a killing based martial art that relies on surprise attacks that set up the pretty much foundation of the Niko style, or it was modernized into the Niko style for martial art use rather than killing use by Gayo Mikaku and him setting up all the Nikos. At number 3, I decided to go for the Raishin style, the Lightning Spirit style, which was passed down throughout the Mikazuki clan. The users we've seen throughout the series is of course Super Simp Rei, Rei's grandfather, and Rei's father, who we actually haven't seen in the story, but we know he was killed by Kuroki Gensai at some point prior to the Annihilation tournament. It's an assassination based martial art which was solely passed down throughout the Mikazuki clan for a total of 1200 years, which is absolutely insane. It focuses on the user becoming one with oneself, or the state of oneness, however you perceive that to be, with the aim to become like lightning itself, which is absolutely crazy. It's also stated that the martial art can only be used by people with the Mikazuki blood due to the physical conditions required to actually master the Raishin style. It mainly focuses on utilizing the clan's superhuman speed in the form of techniques created under the Raishin style, with these techniques being dreamwalking. It involves irregular footwork and creates the perception that there are after images around your opponent, and then use this with combination of other attacks like the Lightning Flash, the fastest technique in the Raishin style, which solely focuses on blitzing your opponent and taking them out before they can even react, as shown with Rei being able to make Kuroki fall to his knee, even though Kuroki had that insane overpowered foresight. It also has the technique known as Sunfire, which focuses on a low damage strike that has high accuracy that focuses on your opponent's pressure points to take him out that way. And the last technique we've seen throughout the series is known as Thunderclap. The user attacks the opponent pressure points with multiple fast, high accuracy and ever-changing strikes, so it's a combination of pretty much the insane speed with Sunfire equals Thunderclap, which is pretty overpowered in my opinion. But yep, that is rank 3 in my opinion. At rank 2 we have the Kaiwan style, a assassination based martial art as well, which involves the user Kuroki Gensai's master, and Rito as the users we've seen throughout the series. It originated from Chinese Wushu and Ryuki Kingdom based martial arts in creation of the Kaiwan style. It places high emphasis on partial training, kata training, and then research on various other elements of fighting. The most extreme and important part of the Kaiwan style is the hand conditioning the users must undergo, which involves stabbing things like sandbags, bamboo poles, and even stone until breaking your hand over and over again until it gets stronger and stronger after it pretty much heals. Its training does not stop with its hands and feet, even joint being trained, with Kuroki having an actual partial trained skeleton, which is absolutely insanely overpowered. He is able to condition to a level where he's able to actually pierce through solid steel with absolute ease, which is just hacks to the max. The techniques include the Devil Lance, which is the signature move of the K1 style, involves using the basic formation of your fingers in a stabbing motion and pretty much just stabbing your opponents with your high level conditioned hand and fingers. They can easily punch through solid steel, human flesh, bone with this technique and just keep stabbing, very similar to the heart jab that Mutaba used throughout the tournament. It also features the technique known as Motionless, a form of foresight which Canada described as the evolution of foresight, which involves you much counterattacking your opponent with this standing still motionless based technique. And it also features the K1 style version of bone binding, which could be argued that the K1 style helped in the creation of the Niko style, and that's why the Niko style has its own version of bone binding as well. I assume there is actually more techniques of the Kaiwan style we didn't actually get to see throughout the Annihilation Tournament or anything that Rita has used, so as the story goes on we'll probably see more techniques for this style, because 3 isn't really enough to, you know, complete a style with all this history involved around it, and it's actually a real fighting style as well with, you know, actual history behind it as well, so that's pretty cool as well. But yep, on to rank 1. Of course, rank 1 martial art in Kengan Ashura Kengan Omega will be the Niko style, used by the protagonist Tokita Oma, used by all the Nikos and created by our boy Gayo Mukaku, with the foundation being the Gayo style. It's pretty much developed from however many other martial arts. There's like so many different techniques. There's the 4 katas, starting with the Adamante kata, which involves tightening the muscles, which creates the techniques known as indestructible, iron breaker, iron fingers, and that's where bone binding comes into play. It has the flame kata, which involves pretty much incredible speed and agility. Techniques include flash fire, phantom pace, raging fire, earth shrinking. It has the redirection kata, which has techniques known as weeping willow, change of scenery, chi blockage, entanglement, flowing edge, marionette. It has the water kata, which features techniques known as bind of pieces, guillotine, jellyfish clutch, screw cutter jizzo, seagrass hold, water dragon's vein, and water miller. And it also has other katas, first being the nil kata, which is different to the 4 main katas I just talked about, but it's mainly focused on breathing exercises and something like that, with it featuring the technique known as void. It also has the ability to combine the various katas to create new techniques such as fire water, flashing steel, flickering flame, iron breaker revolution, swimming swallow, willow the wisp, and it also has secret techniques. It's argued that the advance or possessing spirit is a secret technique of the Niko style, but we still need to learn more about the possessing spirit, the tiger vessel, and everything that goes into that. It also has a secondary ultimate technique, which is the fallen demon used by Kiryu Setuna, and then the ultimate technique of the Niko style, which is the demon's bane, which is a combination of the 4 main katas, redirection, water, flame, and adamante, to pretty much redirect any and all of your opponent's attacks right back at them with more at power than it first had. In summary, we need to learn more about the possessing spirit and how the tiger vessel relates to the Niko style probably at some point in Omega. And I forgot to mention, Kiryu Setuna has shown the ability to use some variations of the Niko style in combination with his Koei style. But yep, those are in my opinion the top 5 martial arts we've seen so far in Kengan Ashura Kengan Omega. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, and yep, that's it guys. Peace.